there will be a short list of real money genius compliant stablecoins.
They are trying to prevent the stagflation scenario, deep depression, collapse, etc., at all costs.
The infrastructure that is underpinning both of these stablecoins, what is the composability between the two?
Welcome back to the Rollup.
This is your home to learn from the biggest guests, the brightest minds at the tip of innovation.
Our goal is to help spread the collective knowledge of everyone in our community.
We are breaking crypto out of its echo chamber and taking it to the real world.
Welcome to episode 1 of Stabled Up, presented by no other than Frax. We've got Sam in the house. Here he is. What up, man? GM.
What's up, guys? GM or GN from wherever everyone's been watching from.
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir. Sam, it looks like a new background for you. It also looks like a new background for our show because we are producing the first episode of Stabled Up. Thanks for all of your help supporting us. You've educated us and our audience about stablecoins for a very long time. And now it seems like all of that education is paying off because stablecoins are all the rage. What is your view on like this moment right now in stablecoins, and we'll get into kind of the vision for the show and all the exciting things happening?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, it's our pleasure. Obviously, love the show and love it even more now that we're doing it together. And I think like we're at a really interesting economic time in the industry for stablecoins. I think you guys probably just saw the Fed announced rate cuts, right? What is this? Is this the first rate cut in like years or something, right?
Yeah,
and
it's been a while.
Yeah, with like projected 50 bips potentially, and in the next, right? So I think we're at probably the most interesting juncture where stablecoins are the hottest technology in the entire world, other than maybe AI, right? These are the two things that have the largest mindshare, and the economic winds are literally about to change, right? And it'll be interesting to know what is the main like meta. How will stablecoins compete in a lowering rate environment? And what will be the main GTM strategies that'll be really successful in the next 12 months?
Yeah, these are the important questions to ask. So as we kind of embark on this journey to really look and continue to educate ourselves as well as the audience on the path to $3 trillion in stablecoins, this has been the benchmark set by Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. There's been a lot of patterns. There's been a lot of launches, and I think we ought to get into it. We've got USDH, USAT, in addition to all the things that you guys have been making waves when it comes to FraxNet. I want to get your take on the USDH saga. We saw, I mean, Andy spoke to Jeremy yesterday. We had USDC go native. You guys put in a proposal. Native Markets ended up winning the proposal. So generally, how was the experience going through this DAO governance process? It was pretty controversial. It was great marketing for Hyperliquid. I want to get a sense of your experience, and then we'll get a sense maybe what this means for Hyperliquid and USDH.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, yeah, obviously the Frax proposal didn't win. We were in the top 5 final running, which was great. We obviously worked really hard to put it together on the fly, which I think, everyone did. And so I think like it was very interesting because there's 2 main takeaways for it from us. First, this is probably going to be not the last time an ecosystem asks for a public proposals for issuance of essentially a quasi-official or unofficial. I know people have said it's just like a ticker and stuff, but obviously the Schelling point around this makes it not just a ticker. I have a ticker I can sell you as well, right? But it doesn't do that, right? But I think the important thing from this is the opening of like the floodgates, right? Obviously Hyperliquid was the biggest platform. I don't think there's that many bigger than it, but we're already actually talking to a few other both chains that have not yet launched for issuance. I obviously can't reveal their names, but also other platforms that aren't chains but have wide distribution. And so actually before the Hyperliquid vote even ended, there were so many that hit us up, but then 2 of them were very, very far along with, and one of them is about to be a done deal, thankfully.
Nice.
So I think you guys will see that. And I think from a factual perspective, this will happen a lot. Obviously, like Frax will win a bunch of them. Athena did Mega ETH, right? The Mega USD. There will be a lot of these. And I think the most important thing to take away from this is that the issuers that are the best brands, the most reliable, that have the best infrastructure, they will be the ones that benefit from this and are able to work with large distribution ecosystems and everything. And I guess the second thing is that I'm very excited to see how Native Markets does and how the whole thing goes in terms of the plans that they have. You know, we'd love to work with them at Frax in terms of the DeFi integrations. frxUSD, like I said on the show here and also on Space, we're coming to Hyperliquid anyway.
Yeah.
In fact, we're like building out our infrastructure to do that. So that's not going to change. We're very close to actually finishing that build out as well. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities there. I think since Native Markets was such a native team on Hyperliquid, they had a lot of community recognition and buy-in. So I'm interested to see if there is a lot of extension of like hand to build with new teams, because like one thing about the whole saga was like, okay, the Native Markets team knows the Hyperliquid ecosystem better than everyone else. Fine, great, fantastic. I accept that. I think everyone, Athena, Maker, Sky, Paxos, they probably would agree with that, right? But I think there's a lot of things that we know in terms of like DeFi flywheels, the ability to actually build liquidity and all this area that is very complementary. So we'd love to have that conversation and see where they think that Frax and probably others can fill out. So, but other than that, we're already doing our own issuance partnerships that I think we'll announce very soon. So we're excited about that.
Very cool, very exciting. And Sam, just kind of on the USDH note, one last thing for you, and then I really want to talk a lot about FraxNet, what your vision is, how you guys are planning this out. There was USAT came out as well. So Tether came out and announced that they're going to have this USA token, USAT. It is their domestic US stablecoin. 𝗶𝗆𝗃𝗃 is going to be leading this charge here. I'm sure you've met Bo at some point in your run-ins in DC or in Las Vegas or wherever. And you're also, been working closely with the Stable team, which is basically a blockchain for Tether. What is the status of USAT? Why is this? Let's just start there. What is USAT? Why is it important? And then I think like the real question is like, is this thing going to eat Circle's lunch or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was actually in New York on the launch like last week on Friday. I was with Paulo, Bo, and the Cantor guys. There was a lot of others there that were invited. Anchorage, obviously, this is issued through Anchorage Bank. And I think this kind of basically solidifies my thinking of everyone that is like a major like player in the stablecoin space. They will have to issue a Genius compatible stablecoin, right? They will have to actually because the market is a $20 trillion market, and to just be entirely absent from it is not an option, right? And so I'm interested to see how the GTM is. I'll be honest that there wasn't that much in the presentation given in terms of GTM. It was basically the announcement and everything, and I think that it'll move fast. I think the first issuance when I asked Paulo and some of the Anchorage guys is like slated for sometime in November or December. Obviously, these are tentative. I'm not in any way affiliated, so but that's pretty fast, right? That is a very big turnaround if that's going to be the timeline that they hit. I think where these stable coins fall in line with each other is going to be the most important, because I was just thinking earlier today, if rates go to zero or near zero, like some insignificant amount, right? The entire underlying economics of how stablecoin issuers make money will change, right? And so how that affects GTM, the ability to share yield when there is no yield, right? Who benefits the most? Will it be Athena that benefits the most? Because assuming rates go to zero, probably there's a glorious bull market. But that's not also a given, right? You can have stagflation, right? So like the just examining all the possible scenarios, right? The worst scenario, for example, for Athena would be zero rates, but no bull market, like super stagflation. Then that would be utter disaster, right? Like the carry yield is very low, but then everyone's like, holy shit, what's going on? But then the T-bill rates are also very low. So it's like, hopefully that doesn't happen, right? But we're going through all of the different things, right? It could be the glorious super cycle, this time of stable coins, right? Low rates, all risk assets are rising. Everyone is rich. What was that New York Times article in the ICO? Everyone is getting rich and you're not, right? Like it could be that would be great. So I think everyone's stable coins will grow because the purchasing power of the dollar goes down, right? So you need more stable coin supply to actually trade against all of these risk assets that are increasing in value. So everyone will get like all-time highs or growth and get crazy P&E multiples. Or there could be some mixture of, you know, in between these things, and it's hard to know, right? And so I think the best outlook is which stablecoin issuers or projects are best positioned no matter which of these situations happen, right? Because we don't know which one of these situations will happen, right? And so, for example, with frxUSD, it's a Genius compatible stablecoin. We're building a full integrated stack with FraxNet that has payments, that has virtual cards, that has other integrations with one-to-one mint and redeems with banks, virtual bank accounts and wires, all of this stuff that makes it extremely useful as money, regardless of what the interest rate is, right? We do have a reward program, but then we also assume that these rates go to zero, right? T-bill rates are zero, so the rewards there are like zero. We also have one of the best DeFi yield systems too, when you can stake your frxUSD in the sfrxUSD vault, earn benchmark yields, including carry trade strategies, CDPs, right? The classic benchmark stuff, right? Like MakerDAO, Frax, Athena. We have that as well if things go in that direction. Then the last thing is if it's a more infrastructure provided thing where you have to issue for partners, right, that have distribution, we're in that game and making deep progress, right? So it's mainly like, where are all of these things growing, in what categories and what verticals, and which projects are going in all of these and having success. So for example, I don't think, as far as I know, like Circle has an issuance platform, right? It is just USDC, but we know Athena does, right? They were another proposal. We know Agora does, right? They have an issuance platform, so they are also live players in that area. And we know that Tether doesn't do yield share in any way, case or form, right? So I was actually talking to Paulo about this. He was like, I would love for rates to go to zero because it would crush any competition or talking points against Tether. It would just be a total domination, right, of the field by Tether. That's that's one way to think about it. I'm not sure if I think he's right. Obviously, they would benefit in a lot of ways, right? But who knows, right? Like maybe it's zero rates and stagflation. Then what happens? So I think we'll have to see. We'll have to get Arthur Hayes on, right?
Yeah, we will.
Definitely will.
He's
So
talking about
Sam,
yield curve control.
Tell me, Tim, tell me how you're different from Athena's design or other yield-bearing stablecoins. Like, obviously, you know, Superstate is a big part of the FRxUSD design. What is the state of, or kind of what is the, how is FraxUSD going to be different in an environment where each of these, scenarios play out?
Yeah. So my view and theory on market structure is there's basically two types of stablecoins. There's the regulated, genius, basically riskless as much as possible economically, digital dollar that is a payment method, a settlement, currency, and it is actually things that you can borrow, right? You can lend this asset, and then there's DeFi, unregulated, permissionless, yield-bearing stablecoins, things like sfrxUSD or sUSDE or sUSDS, right? And these are the only two things that if you fast forward time, actually will exist. All other things will not go to zero, but their market share will drop as a function of these two types of stablecoin assets: Genius, yield-bearing, DeFi stablecoin. And lo and behold, that's what we have: Genius and yield-bearing benchmark strategies. These are the benchmark strategies for sfrxUSD is our AMO system, which Frax invented, and we're famous for. When you have this underlying backing, right, you programmatically push the protocol and liquidity to the most blue chip but best risk-adjusted yield venues, right? Like Aave, Euler, FraxLend, Curve, Carry Trade, all of this stuff, right? And the thing is, there's this kind of interesting, weird middle ground where, like, for example, USDS or USDE, right, where it doesn't bear yield. Obviously, there's token rewards for these, right? But it doesn't bear yield and like natively, and it's not regulated, right? Like literally legally, banks or institutions and things like credit cards, like VisaNet, like these things, they can't use it as a settlement media. It's not like they don't, even if they wanted to, they can't, literally. And it bears the risk of the underlying balance sheet, right? I think these will over time go to not zero, but lose market share to the Genius compliant payment stablecoins. And
Spicy.
but credit to Athena that the reason they have USDTB, right, and they're issuing it with Anchorage to make it Genius compliant is, I think, Guy and the team, who are absolutely brilliant, they know this, or I think he would agree with certain parts of this. I think they have a slightly different strategy, but the point is they clearly see this delineation, right? And they clearly see the fact that they're the market leader in yield-bearing stablecoins. Like basically most of the TVL and DeFi, Aave, Pendle, Athena is like the commanding thing of yields, like kind of how Frax Curve Convex was in the DeFi,
the good old days
cycle before, right? And so what my view is that, okay, that was Curve Convex Frax last cycle, Aave, Pendle, Athena this cycle. What is the thing here? What is the 2026 thing here? Can Frax with sfrxUSD, the yield-bearing system, and then also its Genius compliant frxUSD, can we leapfrog back into being the commander of the entire infrastructure? Clearly, it's not the same thing every cycle. By the sheer fact that the DeFi cycle was Frax Curve Convex, now it's Pendle, Aave, Athena, and I don't think it'll be the same next cycle, whether it starts early 2026 or now, right, or mid. I think that the main meta is changing, and I'm really excited to make sure that Frax is at the forefront of it this cycle.
Yeah, and it seems like Tether is prepared for this with USAT, USDT, but one is going to be Genius compliant, one won't be. I suppose same with Frax. And then when you kind of zoom that out even towards the bigger problem at hand here, Sam, is I saw a tweet. It was like the new L1 fragmentation is stablecoin fragmentation.
Right.
And so I'm curious how you think about that at scale, right? So let's say, obviously all these, some of these stablecoins will be used for domestic use and then international use. Is that just the right way to think about how it's going to be like separated? Or how do you kind of view the actual usage of the Genius compliant and the more yield bearing versions within the US, outside the US? And then how do you kind of see that fragmentation situation happening?
Yeah, so I think there will be a short list of real money Genius compliant stablecoins. And what I mean by that is there will be a short list of stablecoins. Hopefully frxUSD is one of them. That's what we're trying to do. And probably it's going to be USAT given Tether's reach, but they are widely accepted as money across wide swaths of payments, services, institutions, banks like VisaNet, MasterCard's settlement network. They'll settle in these things the way they currently actually do with USDC. And then those will have one-to-one liquidity against a wide set of branded stable coins. You can think of them like Walmart USD, Starbucks USD, I don't know, whatever is like the longer tail of these things, where you're not obviously going to buy something at Costco with Starbucks USD because it's not in Costco's interest, for example, as like a big wholesaler to accept that. So there's no even reason or integration or communication between these two distribution channels, really, right? And so what these branded stablecoins in the long tail will be is they're more similar to tokenized gift cards, right? They're just a new architecture, they're just a new structure, right? And so they'll be better than gift cards. They'll be composable, right? You could kind of like do stuff with them or swap between them. But what people will really hold as real money in between spending between all of these different places is the short list of Genius compliant stablecoins that are liquid, that are money, that are useful in both decentralized and traditional finance. And there won't be that many of them. And those will be in the next 5 years, as you guys said, with the 3 trillion, estimate from Secretary Bessent. Those will be those few will be what the 3 trillion is mostly composed of, right? It'll be like 80% of the money, Genius compliant stablecoins, and then the rest of the 20% will be the Genius gift cards, essentially, is the way that I like to think about it. And so how each of these money-like stablecoins solves the fragmentation problem, make sure that they're one-to-one accepted everywhere. So like, for example, with frxUSD, one of the things we're focusing on right now is making sure as many of these new Visa card products, other card products, we're talking to a few issuers that I can't say today, but we're talking to all of these payment systems so that they have full usage and settlement of frxUSD. So it's as good as money, the way that USDC right now is in like rain cards and 𝗵𝗶 and Pay and all of these places. And the second part is making sure banks actually accept these short lists, right? Banks aren't going to be like, we accept 580, right? They're not going to be of Genius compliant, like come deposit your Starbucks USD, Walmart USD, et cetera there, right? There's going to be like 5, right? And we want to make sure that we are one of those because everywhere else accepts it. And so the marginal utility of the next place that accepts it is even higher for them and for us. And then you get this network effect that's very sticky.
Right. And that Lindy effect will continue to grow as the adoption for the ones that have a seat at the table that are classified as money, like you're saying, is going to proliferate as the network effects expand. And so you're starting to kind of place your bets on both personal, but also Frax. You're an advisor to Stable. They're plugged into USDT. Obviously, Frax has its own frxUSD stablecoin product. Describe how these things work together. Given that you're kind of the shelling point between the two, what would you say is the composability layer for Tether and frxUSD to work together? And then generally the infrastructure that is underpinning both of these stable coins, what is the composability between the two?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's a few things I'm not allowed to say because of what the stable team won't let me say, but they're very bullish. They'll be announced in like
I was going to say that sounds bullish, Sam.
Yeah. Pre-deposit campaigns and stuff, but I can't. I'll get in trouble with saying it. But
we'll have you back on. We'll make the announcement then. We won't give away all the alpha.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I'll come back. I think Matt, who's the CEO of Stable, he should come on, and it'll be really fun. But the actual like answer and on like a high level is there's certain things that like Tether does at size that zero other entities in crypto do. They have 500 million users worldwide across completely different geographies, and that is just so powerful because if you think about like the onboarding problem, right? Like there's always this thing of like, oh, how do we get people to exchange their cash for whatever? It's like, okay, there's actually, if you use a blockchain that has Tether as gas, you don't need to onboard 500 million people. They're already onboarded. So like you can actually directly interact with them, and then Tether, it's in Tether's interest to promote that chain to its 500 million users of Tether across the entire world, right? LATAM, Middle East, Asia. And so the idea is that if you can have infrastructure for those 500 million and growing people, then you can build the other things like deep liquidity on this chain, DeFi, other yield-bearing stablecoin options, right? All of these things that we've always assumed is positive sum, and we've seen that the more liquidity there is between these like stable coins, the more places you can lend them, loop them, the larger the piece of the pie becomes for everyone, right? And so Tether is basically this huge onboarding like cheat code, right? And every single day, Paulo actually shared this in New York, every single day about 300,000 new Tether users is expand, like they obviously estimate it because these aren't all Sybil, right? But around 300,000 new users of Tether is onboarded across the world. That's absolutely insane, right? Like that is it's insane. I don't even know like if Binance or anyone, I don't think they even have that level of reach, right? And so this is like a pretty big hack, right? Like for onboarding and getting exposure to new users, especially users that genuinely are using like crypto, like stable coins, rather than looking for like airdrops or yield and these things. And so the synergy here is who's going to be leading the DeFi on stable, who's going to be doing that kind of stuff. And then all of the new people that are going to be using this chain will then have a gateway to the on-chain world in the stable ecosystem. And so we're super excited to make sure that Frax is one of the all-stars there, and hopefully in a few weeks we can announce it in a very big manner without me getting in trouble.
Introducing Extended exclusively on Starknet, a next-gen perps trading platform live today. With 50+ trading pairs from crypto to TradFi, you get the best experience on-chain today. Deposit in the community vault for attractive returns, EMV compatible, and engage in unified margin, spot trading, lending, and perps trading.
Yeah, definitely, Sam. One thing that stuck out to me in the way that you're thinking about this design is, first of all, you're not trashing any competitors. You're being very real, objective, straight up, and you're building FraxNet in such a way, if I understand correctly, which I think our audience really would appreciate an explanation here as to the thinking, in such a way that you can benefit as a network, as a frxUSD, the asset, pending some execution things. You can benefit from the growth of Tether. You can benefit from the growth of these kind of, as you said, like a Starbucks, loyalty credit type of stable coin. You can kind of be a place where a lot of these different assets coalesce and still bring a lot of value directly to frxUSD as well as the Frax network. So I think you're being very cognizant in the way that you're seeing this play out, and the reality of, and when I asked Jeremy from Circle about this yesterday, his response was just that, look, man, you can use Google Chrome on Apple now. You can use Apple TV on your Samsung TV. These technologies are just going to be mishmash, coexisting across all different forms of smart wallets, smart TVs, smart refrigerators, phones, iPads, computers, etc. Right? And it's going to be this very diverse ecosystem as some other technologies are. And so I think it's helpful to understand your vision that you've laid out for the types of stable coins, how you see them growing, what the next kind of idea is, as we've just discussed. So I think it's a good time to kind of understand why you feel Frax is well positioned to dominate in this world, right? So why is the FraxNet's design specifically meant for this vision that you're seeing play out, and how do you kind of view yourself and Frax kind of capitalizing on this next couple years with this design?
Yeah, for sure. So that's actually, I loved what you said, Jeremy said, and I'll weigh in on that too. So FraxNet is basically a fintech app with just one liner, and it's supposed to just replace ever needing a bank account ever again. Obviously, you can have a bank account, but what it is that you can make wires, you can spend frxUSD in Visa cards, virtual cards. You'll get virtual bank accounts for wires that people won't even know that they're sending it to your FraxNet account, right? It'll be a virtual account with a bank routing number and an account. You'll be able to mint and redeem frxUSD by all major stablecoins one-to-one, like USDC, 𝗵𝗺USD, USDT, 𝗵𝗵𝗃, right? And then more, right? And then if we issue your stablecoin, your stablecoin will be there too. So literally everything I'm talking about, you immediately get all of those benefits. Your stablecoin will be spendable in cards. They'll be able to, your users can sign up for virtual accounts. They'll be able to mint and burn them on 20 plus chains that we're already on, right? All of the plethora and soon Hyperliquid, as we said. And so it's a very, very powerful way of moving cash around. And like you said, abstracting it out, these are just technologies, right? You can mint it on Hyperliquid and move it to Base and or to Solana, and then or you can burn it for USDC or for Wire or this, and then or load it into a Visa card. And then there's obviously the reward streaming aspect of it. Whatever the risk-free rate happens to be, whether it's 1, 4, whatever, 5. When you're doing all these things, this actually gets streamed to your Fraxtal chain FraxNet account. So you basically get a savings account on our Fraxtal chain, and then everything that you hold on all the different chains, you just get streamed the risk-free yield. So you basically get a savings account on our Fraxtal chain. And so that's basically, if you think of it, it's like a super app, right? And there's obviously an SDK and API, so you can actually hook this into whatever app that you're building, whether it's on-chain or off-chain. If you want to redeem frxUSD accepted one-to-one, make sure that if you hold it in like a DAO treasury, you're getting the risk-free yield streaming or any of these things, right? And so it basically brings all of the utility that you can think about to frxUSD and any stablecoin that we do issue, right? If we do issue, like you'll be literally in the same FraxNet infrastructure. And that's obviously really needed, because otherwise this is just like, the stablecoin will be like those tokenized gift cards, right? There's only a very narrow certain sense that you can use them. And so in terms of the positive sum view that I've always evangelized and everything, I'm really happy to see actually Jeremy said it even better than me. I love the way that he said it, where you can use Apple TV streaming on your Samsung or LG TV. You can use Google Chrome on your Mac, which is what I'm currently doing right now. And that's a very good point, because like, look, the Circle is going to launch Arc, right? And they're also on Base, right? Does that mean that Circle and Coinbase have beef? That would be absolutely crazy to think that they do. They obviously get value out of working together and increasing each other's value, market cap, and the ability for them to solve people's problems, right? And in their own ecosystem. And so I've never believed in the negative sum way if both sides agree on it, right? So like I'm not
the 3-3, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like if the other side doesn't want to do like this in positive sum, right? If they don't want to do integrations or like one-to-one redeems or whatever their infrastructure stack is, right? Like if LG bans like the Apple streaming app or something, right? If like the Apple breaks compatibility with Google Chrome, that's not positive sum, right? So it's not like it's always happy hugs and stuff like that. But until there is good integration at all times, there's always a path that maximizes value for users and both sides. And I always search for that from the very beginning. Now, what's interesting is there is going to be tussles and things.
Oh, I mean, there is for sure. I mean, Stable and Plasma do not like each other. That is a fact. Plasma thinks Stable is just like the copycat. Stable's like, we're going to do what you can do better. Like that is already going to happen.
Yeah,
You don't have to comment on that, but I'm just saying that it's going to happen, or it is happening.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a
competition's
more
real.
insane backstory than whatever each of them say publicly, but I'll definitely get in trouble for that.
We're not going
one.
to talk about that, but competition's real. That's the reality, where it's a big market that we're going for. It is a blue ocean. It is a new market. It is, and the US is all in on it. So there's a lot at stake. When it's high stakes, it's competition. How do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I think like, first of all, a lot of things in the US, like banks or entities or even startups and stuff, they actually aren't exactly sure which area they're even competing in currently, right? Like everyone's kind of trying to figure it out, so to speak, right? And there's a lot of opportunity to create like value, like issue someone stablecoin, so then they can go do what they do better than you do, right? They can go do the thing that is their strength, and they can use your infrastructure for what you're good at, right? Like the stuff that we've built for FraxNet and interconnected, all these features, that's not easy to build. That's actually the reason it's taking so long is like, if someone else had that, we would just be using it ourselves, right? We would just actually be using that as like a white label solution or something, right? It's very, very difficult to build because it takes a lot of technology that's like integrated, like cross-chain messaging, banking layer, card spending layer, all of these relationships between different issuers, so you can mint and redeem between them at one-to-one, or allow people to connect their bank account and burn frxUSD for a wire backwards, etc. And so the thing is, there's so many layers to it that the opportunities are basically wide open. But in the next 1 year, in the next 12 months, I think what will happen is, like, as battle lines are sort of drawn a little bit, right? Like,
of course.
like Tempo versus Arc versus Stable or Plasma or whatever. Then we'll know which area they're all competing against each other. I don't think it's very clear right now.
Interesting.
Right now, it's not like a very clear map.
Yeah, it's too general to really get a nuanced view on where each of these companies has an edge.
And none of them are launched yet, too, Robert. That they're just all in,
a lot of
pre-mainnet. As far as the chains go,
right? The issuers obviously are launching stablecoins left and right. What we haven't seen so much is the Walmart stablecoin, the Amazon stablecoin. And something you were talking about earlier is like, look, FraxNet kind of removes the need for a bank. You can still have a bank if you want one, but you don't need one. Well, these banks aren't just going to go quietly into the night. They're going to try to fight and compete as well. And so what's now in this new economy, what's their edge, right? Like, they didn't want some aspect of Genius to offer yield. And there was kind of going back and forth on the Genius Act. And so I'm curious, on a certain level, all these stable chains and stable coin companies are working together. And then you have, because they're all the new guard, and you have the old guard, which is all these banks. And then on another level, there's kind of the infighting that happens. This happens at DeFi at large and across several sectors in the industry. And so do you sort of, and maybe this gets into the composability, maybe you can't talk about it so much, but how do you view the competitive landscape? Is it similar or different, the one that's kind of internal to the stablecoin and the stable chain industry, and then external when you look at the traditional banking competitive landscape? How do you, are these kind of the same, or do you view them differently?
That's a good question. So, you know, what's actually would be really funny is that if this, the yield clause you brought up, like, that's the thing that's like the tip of the spear for like attacking like Genius stablecoins. It would be so funny if like yields went to zero, so they don't even have that as like as a way to fight them, and then they still get crushed by stablecoins. I think there's a good chance that'll happen. It's like,
I think that that answers your question, Rob. There it is. Sam doesn't have to say anything else. That's it. That's the take. It's DeFi for the win.
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly.
It also crushes. It also crushes the stable coins that are not positioned to capitalize on a low rate environment. So then you sort of have this other dimension of competition where it's companies, whether they're traditional banks or they're neo banks in DeFi, that are positioned for a high rate environment, and the ones that are positioned for a low rate environment. They might be traditional or part of this modern era. And
yeah, well, if you think of like Genius, like fiat coins, they can't do anything with they can't massively hypothecate the underlying. So they're going to have to find other revenue streams, right? Like mint and redeem fees, or like control the settlement, right? Whether it's their own chain or like cut deals with specific other chains or payment providers. And I think like the important thing is, if you don't have moneyness, right? Like if you literally do not have moneyness where people actually come in and out of this and use it for real economic activity, during low rates, you can't even monetize your distribution because you don't get anything from treasury bill income, right? So like it's actually it's actually good for the issuance business, like Frax or Agora or things, because we can issue. We already have the infrastructure, and even if it doesn't make a lot of money for the brand, like during the low rate environment, they have it so that they can continue to use it. And it's not a sunk cost. Like imagine if you had to actually do all of these things in R&D versus just literally letting us do it with the push of a button, right? So it actually makes issuance as like a service much more viable, because it's like you can literally outsource it to people that know what they're doing, and then figure out the right way to monetize it, because you can't monetize it with T-bills or hypothecation, right? And so I think the other question is, what is the actual macroeconomics going to be? Is it stagflation, or is it glorious super cycle? Because both banks and DeFi have very different like modus operandi of like what they do in those kind of economic times, right? Like if it's super cycle, everyone pack into like sfrxUSD or Athena SUSD and just print, right? Like the yields on those yield bearing stablecoins will be like 20-30%, or I think Athena hit like what 38 or 9%, I think, at its highest like epoch rate. Is absolutely insane, right? But what if that's not the case? What if the case is that the like economic activity slows down? I think that's actually literally what Jerome Powell was quoted as saying today, right? The economy has slowed down. That's just code, like different way of saying stagflation, right? And so if that's the case, if the Athena or the sfrxUSD yield is like 3%, right? And then the treasury yield is like 1% or 0.5%. What do you do with your dollar capital? And then also what exactly are the stable coins that benefit the most in that situation? I'm interested. Well, hopefully we don't find out, because I don't want there to be stagflation. But if that happens, I'm interested to see how it pans out.
Yeah, Sam, I think I have a really kind of more question that's more on the philosophy side to wrap us here, come to a close. No rush. I don't know your schedule, but what you're saying here is describing where we're at and what feels like we're, each year passes, we get closer and closer to this like fiat experiment that the Bitcoiners will tell you was, doomed to fail from the beginning. Feels like we just get closer and closer to, this kind of experiment going wrong in some way. And I'm not going to be a doomer here, but the reason why I bring up this context is because I think it's important to understand from the highest level in the US government that they are trying to prevent the stagflation scenario, deep depression, collapse, et cetera, at all costs. And by doing so, they are looking at all of their options. And in one of their, in one of their hands of cards, aces of spades, we're looking at stablecoins. And they see stablecoins as a way to extend the US dollar's regime globally, to extend the demand for the USD globally, to create the digital dollar, to fight CBDCs as well. And so when we're thinking about stablecoins right now in this macro sense, we're looking at them from a purely economics perspective. I'm curious what your take is on the more geopolitical power perspective that stablecoins are playing. Right now, it feels like a small amount, but I could really see this being a big part of the US's economic plan with regards to the deficit, with regards to, kind of just generally extending their power. Again, very broad here, but what is your take on the more geopolitical power that stablecoins have in today's world?
Yeah, I actually think about this a lot, because I try to be like way forward looking, and I think that there's a few different schools of thought, right? I think Arthur Hayes is like the yield curve control, like era is coming because they need to The U.S. government needs to be able to borrow at like 0%, right? And the current payment interest on the massive debt is way too much. So they need to figure out some funny way. I love his writing with all the jokes, but like basically some funny way of like jiggling the Microsoft Excel sheet around where like they're basically paying de facto nothing, right? On like they basically wreck bondholders, right? The other way is this, in my opinion at least, this stablecoin maximalist view where if you actually think about who holds who holds treasuries the most in the world, they're sovereigns, right? It's like it's Japan, it's China, it's European countries, and for the first time, very large stablecoin issuers like Tether hold very large amount of treasury bills that are essentially decentralized and tokenized among all of USDT's holders, right? Like they're basically, when you hold USDT, you're basically holding treasuries without the yield, but your ability to zap them to any computer and anything in the entire world as a form of payment, right? And I think that is where they're getting their strategy, is if they can actually decentralize and distribute the holdings of treasuries, right, to pretty much everyone on Earth, their ability to borrow is much cheaper, right? Like if you actually, I think Paulo said this, or someone, I don't quote me on it, but someone said specifically, if you go around to every single country in the world and you actually ask them without any repercussion in your laws or something, would you rather hold the dollar or the national currency of your country? I think everyone would pick the dollar. Almost everyone. I don't know, maybe Switzerland, this currency is super strong, but everyone would pick the dollar, right? And how do you actually execute on that, right? There's the fact that if this is a true like statistic, right, assuming it is, how do you get the dollar in every single person's hand? Because that would really help borrowing costs for the US. Obviously, it would be bad for other national currencies as they get displaced. So there's going to be pushback, right? There's going to be central banks that try to limit the amount of USD stablecoin holdings, like stablecoin capital controls. It'll be even more impossible to do those compared to even the current like analog TradFi capital controls. And so especially with like decentralization, privacy preserving transactions in some of these blockchains, right? And so it's not going to be possible to fight it, but they will fight it, the other countries. And so if the strategy is not yield curve control, or maybe it's a combination of both, but if the strategy is the stablecoin maximization of the entire world, the USD stablecoin maximization, then the treasuries become very cheap for the US to issue. And so they need to tap into that. And I think obviously the current administration believes that. I hope that whether it's this administration, another Republican or Democrat or whatever administration is, that they also realize how powerful of a strategy this is if we can do it as the United States of America. It'll actually cement US financial and geopolitical dominance for at least another 50 to 100 years, unquestionably, if it can be executed properly.
Sam Kazemian, Frax, OG DeFi, Curve Convex, Frax. We got dual wielded stable coins coming, Robbie. We've got Genius Compliant. We've got Yield Bearing. We've got Sam in the house with Paolo and Bo Hines, just absolutely just grinding behind the scenes to bring crypto to the mainstream. Stablecoins have done such a great job of changing the perception of our space. There's a lot of interest. This is going to be one of the best stablecoin shows, if not the best in the space. Stable Dash is interested. This is going up on their site. We're already collaborating there. They're going to push more. This is going to be a hot spot for really important conversations over the next 6 to 12 months as the space evolves and longer. Sam, we're stoked to have you on to kick us off. As you can see, we're still putting the nuts and bolts together, but the foundation is here. This was a great kickoff conversation, and we are really looking forward to executing on the show, being a part of this stablecoin growth with Frax, with our other investments in the space, venture and liquid. And man, I mean, what a time to be alive. First rate cut is on. We'll see how the market reacts. And there's just going to be a lot of moving parts and pieces. And, no one better than yourself to navigate, predict, and see the vision here. So we appreciate your time today, Sam. It's been a 3-hour stream for me. I'm starving. Probably need to stand up, get some blood flow. So I'm gonna let you go. Rob, as always, been great. And yeah, guys, thanks, man.
Thanks. Congrats on the show, guys, and see you soon.
Alrighty, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Peace.